Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. We have a returning guest, someone we talk to month after month because everybody, including myself, was sure the Vegas market was just going to crash and implode, and then it didn't happen. So let's welcome Brian Liebel to the show. How you doing, Brian?
Hey guys, how are you?
We were doing this every month for seemingly 8 or 9 months, and the answer was not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
And now it's almost August of 21. What's going on in Vegas? Did the crash happen and I missed it?
Yeah, it didn't happen while you were sleeping, man.
Okay, good.
We're still no, we're still plugging away, like we were discussing before the show. I put in my last episode, to kind of illustrate what the market's looking like right now. It's like it was 115 degrees. Now it's only 105 degrees. So it's cooling down, but it's still hot as hell. So that's kind of the way it feels right now. Is it's still an incredibly hot market. It's still, arguably the best market that we've ever encountered. Yeah. But there are signs that it is starting to slow down a little bit. So
okay. So what it'll be interesting to see, because what I've been telling folks for the last really only 45, maybe 60 days is I'm calling for a housing slowdown, meaning rising inventory, slightly less demand. But to be clear, I'm not calling for a crash, right? There's no 10, 20, 30, 40% crash coming. But you know Vegas a lot more than me. What do you say about Vegas?
Yeah, I think truly the fundamentals are there. I really don't see a crash coming in the imminent future. Look, there's so many economic factors at play that it's hard to predict where we'll be a year and a half from now. Okay. But I feel pretty certain within the next year, you're not going to see any kind of a crash. I really don't feel as though there's going to be a correction even at this junction. Okay. I think what I was hoping for and what it looks like is that we're starting to actually just plateau. Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping. And we're starting to see a little bit of it. But there's a lot of bizarreness to the market. There's a lot of speculators right now as sellers. So even though our inventory has risen, in the last week, I've pulled several neighborhoods where, for instance, there's 6 homes for sale and only one's under contract. That makes absolutely fundamentally no sense when we have a market that's so depleted of inventory and is so hot. But when you investigate, I literally pulled one for someone yesterday. An agent actually called me and said, hey, I listed this house 5 days ago. We only had one showing. Like, is this happening with you? And I'm like, no. Let me take a look at it. And when I looked at it, the house was priced at $575,000. The highest sale ever for that floor plan had been $515,000, and it was nicer with a pool. The most recent sale was like $460,000. And so I went back to her and said, how the hell did you think you were going to get 575? How did you let your clients know you were going to get 575? Because there isn't even a sale that supports that value or anywhere in the neighborhood of it. Yeah. Meanwhile, there was 5 others for sale and they're all absurdly high priced. So I am starting to see some of this going on. There's a lot of pikers in the market, if you will, when it comes to sellers, because everyone's heard these wild stories that these Californians come in and just pay cash and don't care. And, I just closed on one 2 weeks ago. That was precisely one of those absurd deals. In a normal market, I never would have even taken the listing. And I told my clients that, but I figured, let's throw it against the wall. And it went beyond my wildest dreams. Wow. But those are becoming far and far less prominent than they were 3-4 months ago. But you have a lot of people that are just shooting for the moon, and it's not really going to happen, especially when you see a parking lot in a neighborhood. So
that's interesting, because again, folks, if you're following my channel for any length of time, this is what I told you would happen. Sellers are starting to go, hey, I've been hearing about how hot the market is, 10 offers, 1 listing, no contingencies. So they're just throwing it out there, right? 575 in a 510 market. That doesn't end well, right? Yeah. That slows down, inventory builds. And then what I see, because I'm an investor, I'm not an owner occupant, is you're going to eventually find truly motivated sellers, because the people that don't need to sell, they'll just yell at their agent. They'll be upset. And then 60 days later, they'll just take the listing off the market, right? They don't have to sell.
And that's exactly what I'm starting to see going back a couple of months ago. I put one in my last video where, just to show the level of absurdity in pricing. And, this is something we talked about a year ago, and especially going back in the beginning of the year. Emotion tends to really drive markets.
Yes.
So and people discount how much this is true. When you have any market that's rapidly increasing or any market that's rapidly decreasing, emotions tend to base decisions, and we have a void of logic. So when prices are going through the roof, people feel panic and people feel fear. So people tend to go, you know what, I know this is overpriced, but screw it. I've already lost 4 deals. Let's just do it. So people throw logic into the wind and just do whatever it takes to win. And there is some semblance of reality based on it, because to a certain extent, if you overpay for this house, your neighbor is going to overpay over what you paid when they want to get their house. So you do have this stair stepping that occurs, but a lot of lunacy also entails because people just emotionally lose their minds and just overpay. So once you start getting the news reports, like I'm sure you've seen just in this last week, all of a sudden I'm seeing national news media, local news, everyone's talking about a little bit of a slowdown.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden, all of this sense of urgency that buyers have, they start to go, I know that you have 4 offers, but I don't want to pay this much over. All of a sudden, logic starts to slowly dictate once again. And those extreme analogies that we've all heard of, those start to dissipate. And so that's the next stage that we're entering into, where these ridiculously overpriced listings, I'm already seeing them come on. I go, what? And then sure enough, a month later, it's vamoosh. Because they never got a showing, because people are like, doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
it's the whole I'll sell if I get my number attitude.
The exact story that I just told you, literally her client said, well, we want to move to this state. We need 175,000. And so, this was a newer agent. So I went back to her and I said, hey, look, you got to explain to people, just because they need a number doesn't make their house more valuable. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, that's just not how real estate works. It's intrinsic value is what the value is. You're left with whatever you're left with.
Yeah,
so,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, what I see happening is, again, and again, I've been doing this a long time, right? I think what we're entering right now is a period where listings beget more listings, right? People start seeing stuff, more listings are coming right when demand is retreating. It's going to be an interesting combination. Then we're going to see listings. You're going to yell at your agent. Some will take off, as we just talked about, but then some people have to move. Some people get divorced. Some people have to. And then you're going to find your motivated sellers. And if you're there at the right time, they'll sell under asking.
Yeah. But again, the question is asking even
true
realistic? Like in this neighborhood, everyone's trying to get above 550,000 when your value is probably closer to 500,000, maybe 510.
Yeah.
So you thinking that you're taking a haircut in actuality is probably a real generous offer.
Sure.
But you'll see if that one person in the neighborhood who has to sell, they're going to sell their house for 500,000. Exactly. And then all of a sudden everyone's going to say, well, if I have to get 500, let's just take it off the market.
We're staying.
Yeah.
I suddenly like my house a lot better at 500, not 550.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Exactly. But yeah, it's getting pretty interesting. We've got issues with home builders that are not living up to their contractual agreements. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Yeah, I did a little section in my last month's video. So I had a client, we went into contract, 6 months ago. Part of the contract, again, we're out in Las Vegas, so we have, unique construction compared to other places in the country, because when it's 115 degrees, your attic is, nuclear level.
Exactly.
So air conditioning is very, very important out here in the desert. So one of the major construction techniques is, obviously we have insulation in the attic, but we also have what are called radiant roof barriers. And these radiant roof barriers it's like taking your house and moving it into the shade. Oh, okay. So the best way to explain it is like insulation is like putting sunblock on,
okay,
but a radiant roof barrier is literally taking your house and like moving it into the shade.
Okay.
It was designed by NASA, and it literally goes in the attic underneath the roof line, and it literally is a barrier of heat protection. Okay. So your attic never even reaches those levels, and then therefore your insulation above whatever your floor is never has to penetrate. So
Okay.
this is about a 15% savings in energy. It's huge out here. Well, the builder is claiming that they can't source the material, which they can source the material. It's just the
crazy
cost has
price.
risen
Yeah.
along with lumber and everything. So in order to control their costs, they're actually going back to these buyers and saying, hey, we're not going to build it. We're just not going to build it. What we're willing to do is we're willing to upgrade your insulation, which is nice, but it doesn't compare to that 15% savings.
Hmm.
So as a buyer, there's nothing, I mean, what can you do? That's what's disappointing is you can close and then sue the builder. Otherwise, there's nothing you can do. If you walk away, good luck. Now you have to stand in line, wait for another house, and it's going to cost you probably $50,000 from where you had locked in the price 6 months ago. So there's a lot of shady business that's going on as a result of these costs and labor that everyone's trying to control.
Wow.
Labor, I don't know if you guys are experiencing it, but labor is such a massive problem out here.
It is. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. Even in Vegas, right, which is a service sector, and it was hit for a long time. That's something I wanted to talk about. Are conferences coming back, and it's just the old Vegas is back, or are you 50% of the way back from the low, or what's going on with just the?
No, I mean, the conferences are coming back. We're getting the conventions. I mean, it really does feel like we are back now.
Okay.
What's going to be interesting is yesterday, Las Vegas. Well, I shouldn't say Las Vegas, but Nevada, and especially Clark County, which is the county that Las Vegas is located in. We're going back to mask mandates tomorrow. So
For everyone?
For everyone. First, about a week ago, we went to employees.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mask,
okay.
and you're like, all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, anytime you're indoors, you have to. We're right back to quarantine time. We're right back to wearing masks 24/7. I haven't seen an end date. I haven't seen a target number either, just because we're a hotspot for the pandemic. So,
well, yeah, you're a travel destination, right? So you're getting a lot of people.
Travel destination, and you got to remember, not only, this isn't Florida where we're talking about Disneyland and families necessarily. We've got thousands of people in one nightclub. There is no social distancing.
It's not even 6 inches.
It's a petri dish, man. Like literally between that and the pools, it's a petri dish. So
how about unemployment? What's going on there? It was like over 10% or 11%. That was months ago, like 6 months ago, but
I think that's a real tricky analytic to look at, because there's unemployment and then there's people that do not want to be employed. Ooh. So personally, I'm just going to say straight up bullshit on that number.
Okay.
Because if you want a job, there are more employers looking for employees than there are potential applicants for jobs.
Oh, that's good to know, because that wasn't the case in Vegas for a while, but it is now.
Right. No, I'll put it to you this way. This is the level of absurdity when we're talking about, so, I mean, my contractor, he can't get people to work, and the ones that do want to work want twice as much money as they wanted, 6 months ago. Now, one of my contractors, he owns landscaping and pool company, right? So he called me as a business person saying, hey man, I can't wrap my head around this problem. Let me know if you have any ideas, because I got all kinds of whacked out ideas, and hey, let's just try something different. Right. But his problem is that he's had employees that have been with him for 10 years, and they're talking to him about leaving. There's literally a pool maintenance company in town that's offering applicants $1,000 signing bonus just to sign, literally for a guy to clean pools. That's how tight the labor market is, that they'll give you $1,000 signing bonus for a pool cleaner. So he's trying to compete with these companies. He can't take new business because he doesn't have the manpower. And now he's going to have to raise prices on his existing customers to cover the cost of his increased payroll. So the reality is I don't believe that there's an unemployment problem in Las Vegas. I think that the biggest problem that I see is that people don't want to work.
They got addicted to the stimulus checks. And all the checks.
And especially on the lower level, like we're just discussing, for those lower wage earners, casino slot people, like I said, landscapers, these guys are making as much money or more just on unemployment. Why should I work? Doesn't make sense. So I think we are going to see a massive uptick in employment once we get rid of a lot of the federal funding. Like Arizona, they pulled federal unemployment. And that's what we need to do, because there's too many employers that can't find help and too many people that are sitting around not working.
So Nevada still has it going till September. I think that's the date. The federal level is September, I think.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't want to discuss
I
that
think
because I'm
so.
not sure the
That's
exact
okay.
date.
I looked it up. It's
But
September.
I think things are going to get a lot better for people once we get people actually back to work and willing to work. That I think will lower a lot of costs and issues.
How about the eviction moratorium? Is that going to expire here on July 31st, or did Nevada?
Yeah, I believe that's expiring. You know, this is going to affect lower end housing, like very, very low. So we're talking, you know, people who have fourplexes, low end apartments. This isn't really, if I've talked to countless property managers, and all of them say surprising, not much different than
Not a
norm.
problem. Yeah.
Not much of a problem. But on the low end, that's where you're going to have a lot of issues and a lot of evictions. But again, you know, you can't blame that right now on unemployment. Like, you just can't blame that on people unable to seek work in Las Vegas. I'm just not buying that. But you will see evictions. But I think a lot of those are pretty well self-induced at this junction.
Very cool. So two other things I remember from our past conversations from episode 1, it must have been 18 months ago. You highlighted something that I thought was so cool about the last crisis, the Great Recession. And you said something I'd never thought of. You said the first thing to crack was lot premiums. So I just want to ask, lot premiums cracking yet, or are they still absurd?
Absurd. Absurd. Yeah. I mean, you know, overall, I think what's occurring is this. We've never had the level of wealth descending on Vegas, especially at the same time. So many people from California with so much equity on the sale of their homes that, you know, it's like this. It's like you spending $20 on a widget, but then you going into a casino, putting $2 into a machine, winning 20. That $20 no longer feels the same as the $20 that you pulled out of your pocket and earned.
Yep.
So for a lot of these individuals that are coming from California, you know, they just cashed out $500,000, $1 million, and it's burning a hole in their pocket.
Yeah.
So the dream, and I can't dispute, the dream is to get a brand new home. And so everyone comes initially looking for that brand new home, but the sticker shock pushes some people away, but a lot of people are still going for it. And again, that's the dream. If you've lived in a 50-year-old home for the last 20 years, there's nothing better than a brand new sparkling home in a new state and a new start. So people are still falling for that. They've managed to maintain these ridiculously high priced lot premiums. And in fact, a lot of the builders now, they're on a blind bidding system.
Oh my God.
They'll start, I mean, you'll have literally homes that are $600,000 and the blind bid for a lot premium will be $100,000 start, and it'll end at $220,000. So that's what a lot of the national home builders have gone to, is this bidding system. And, you know, in fact, I think you saw it. DR Horton came out last week, the CEO, and said that we are slowing down home building.
I saw that.
The biggest problem, again, is sourcing materials, costs, and labor. They just can't meet the demand with supply at this junction. So if you're constrained as far as how much you can even build supply wise, then that means you might as well charge until people rebel. And no one's rebelling at this point. And again, you know, in Las Vegas, a lot of the homes on the resale market need work, and that's just not for everyone. So I don't see that changing anytime in the immediate future, just because, again, we still have that new home demand that can't even be supplied.
Wow. The other thing I remember talking about, this is probably halfway through our conversations. I could have the building wrong, but I think it was called the Palms. Essentially was, I'm going to call it a condo hotel or hotel condo that was having some financing issues and you had to buy cash. Is that all fixed, or did any deals?
So that's going to be, that's going to be an interesting one.
Oh,
so I was down there. Yeah, I actually was down there last week, and you could call it a fall from grace.
Okay.
It's the prices are definitely reflective of a lot of the clientele. So I mean, the Palms, you know.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, look, the Palms at one time was a flagship property. It was like the way we look at the Cosmopolitan, the way the Hard Rock Hotel used to be, where it had a young demographic with disposable income. That was the Palms MO. When they reopened, they tried to get that back.
Okay.
And it was a massive flop. They overinvested. They put way too much money into a massive nightclub that could never be profitable from the jump.
Hmm.
But they were hoping that they could recapture that money through casino revenue, and it just wasn't going to happen. So subsequently, they shut it down. They didn't reopen, but recently they just sold it to, I forget, but an Indian tribe. They're going to be reopening it. The problem with the Palms had to do with the insurance policy that Stations and the Fertitas had on the Palms casino.
Hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now that there's a change of ownership and if they reopen, because if they can reinstate that insurance policy, then they'll be able to acquire financing. The downside to it is now when you go there, the Palms is basically like a corporate Airbnb. That's basically what it is, a condotel project. So basically you essentially own a hotel room.
Right.
So this was something that really became popular in like the mid 2000s. MGM did the residences. There was a few of these projects. The problem right now is they're renting these things for like $100 a night. And the clientele, I'll put it to you this way. I'm not kidding you. Outside 100 yards from the entrance, you park in the Palms parking lot. The second you open your car door, you can just smell weed everywhere. Wow. Everywhere. And it's literally just people walking around, just smoking blunts and walking in. The main, there was a porte cochere that you would pull into where it'd be like the registration valet area. That shut down, and at night they actually gate it off because there's so many like vagrants and prostitutes in the area that they have to fence it off and then have security escort people in through the fence. It's a different demographic. So at this point, you know, 1-bedroom units that were going for $400,000 a year ago are down to $200,000, and it's cash only. Now, will it go back up? It's very, very likely. It's probably a really good bet. The question is, how long is it going to take for new ownership to open the Palms? Can they reinstate the insurance policy? Can they obtain financing? But the problem is, you know, a family, a wealthy late 20-year-old, 30-year-old,
no chance. Not going.
You completely lost them. So it's going to be very, very difficult for them to regain the demographic that makes the property valuable. Right now, it's just a discount-based proposition.
So when you say they don't have insurance, that means there's no gambling on site?
Well, the casino itself is completely shut down. It is not open for operation. It hasn't been open for over a year before the pandemic.
So literally just a condo hotel, and that's it.
Yeah,
a couple of restaurants,
Palms,
maybe.
Yeah, they're doing construction to the Palms to reopen it under the new ownership. But Palms Place, which is the residential component next to it, it's open, but it's only partially open. Some of the functions aren't actually operating. Like I said, there's no valet. They're just like, hey, just use the parking lot for the Palms.
Yes,
and
right over there. That's
and
self valet.
Yeah, and it's sketchy during the day. It's super sketchy at night.
Oh, no
so
thanks.
Again, you know, it appeals to a very different demographic. I would say I was in Miami, and if you've been to South Beach, lately compared to what it was 15 years ago, you're looking like the same thing. You know, South Beach the buildings look the same, but the people that are there, it's a completely different demographic. It is completely changed. And the same thing has happened to the Palms. Very, very different.
Very cool. So if we were to summarize what you're seeing going into the end of the year, it's only 5 months away, basically a real estate slowdown that I see nationally, probably the same in Vegas. Maybe you're going to have some price drops because people were reaching, and then inventory grows. Is that kind of a fair summary?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, you know, look, we were dealing with hysteria, and that's not sustainable, right? Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this before. Some things are just simply not sustainable. The good times never last forever. The bad times never last forever either. Well, so at some point, things have to change. The only question we had was whether it was going to be a soft landing or a crash. At this junction, I'm seeing a natural decline. And part of it, though, is, you know, let's just be realistic. This is the time of year where things slowly start calming down. Out here, depending on which school, some schools are starting next week. The majority of them are starting in 2 weeks.
That's true.
So you have to look at it for a lot of families that have been relocating here. They already made their moves, have settled in, and are getting ready for the school year. So a lot of those families, it's going to be not many families make that move in September in the beginning of the school year. Yeah. So these people have made their moves already. I think the majority of the people who have their cryptocurrency wallets and all the refi, I think a lot of this has already been spent. And like I've been saying, a lot of this bullshit cash, all these people with crypto money, people who took out the HELOCs and now have 200 grand burning in a hole in their pocket. They already bought their cars. They already bought their pools. They already remodeled their house. You're still seeing it, but I think we're seeing the tail end of all of this extra money that's just been sitting around. So I think we're going to see a normal year slowdown where things are going to gradually, it's going to slow down a little bit. And then we'll probably hit October. And then you'll see things really slow down until we get into January, February. I think we're going to be dealing with a little bit more normalcy. Our inventory has doubled since March.
Now, that's good.
Now, again, like I said, 105 degrees is better than 115, but it's still hot.
Still 105.
Yeah. We're selling 3,000, 4,000 homes a month, and our inventory was at 1,800. Now we're at 3,000. So look, we've doubled, but we still have a 1 month supply of inventory. So is that something to brag about? No, that means nothing at this point. Yes, we are trending towards more supply, but we're nowhere even remotely near any point of equilibrium, let alone a crash.
When you go back historically and go back to 2019 or 18, a normal inventory level is like 4,800 for Vegas, something like that.
I mean, let's see. I mean, I can literally look right now.
There you have that spreadsheet. I love that spreadsheet.
Yeah, I got the magic spreadsheet. So look, let's pull the week of July 21st. Right now, we had 2,976 homes.
All right, call it
when
3,
we go back.
Yeah.
So when we go back to 2019, the week of July 25th, we had 7,851.
Oh, 7,800.
So that's almost 3 times as many. So, you can see there's, equilibrium is supposed to be 6 months supply. So that's 18,000. Now I disagree with that number.
Yeah.
I very much disagree. I think that's too high.
It is.
But I think for us to have equilibrium, we need to be around 10,000 homes. I think that's more equilibrium.
So it triple.
Vegas.
Yeah, you need to triple.
Yeah, we need to triple before we get to a fair point for buyers and sellers.
And then the last thing you said on the preview is 7 out of the last 8 weeks, you have seen inventory build.
Actually, it's 11 out of the last 12 weeks.
Oh, 11 out of 12. Sorry.
11 out of the last 12. And I mean, look, so when we're looking at the inventory, when we first started accelerating, I'm looking at the spreadsheet right now, we had, 30 homes added. The first week we had positive, then 48. We lost 1. We gained 78. So those are the numbers that we first started going with. This is in April. April is when we first started seeing weeks of inventory increasing. But again, you're in the average would be about 50 homes a week. Now, last week we added 155, the week before 142, the week before 201. So more importantly is the fact that not only are we continuing to add inventory, we're adding inventory at a greater rate.
Right.
We're adding weekly 4 times as much as we were when we first started adding inventory. So that's a more important aspect of the metric to really look at. And that's going to be telling. A month from now, are we adding 400 homes in 1 week? Or are we, where are we going to be at? And I think that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think this is all good news, and more agents that really know their market should be tracking stuff like this, like you do. So if you're watching this channel and you're interested in Vegas real estate, you need to reach out to Brian Lebo. How do you want them to do that?
You can reach me. The best way to reach me is directly 702-257-LEBO, LEBO, 702-257-LEBO, Brian with a Y at lebogroup.com, or you can go to my website, lebogroup.com. But best way, we live in a texting era, man. Just shoot me a text. 257-LEBO. Shoot me a text. I'll get right back to you.
And he also has an amazing YouTube channel. What is that?
Definitely. So if you are looking at investing or relocating Las Vegas, definitely check out my YouTube channel. The main content that you're going to want to focus on are my monthly updates. What we're discussing, these analytics, this is what I specialize in. This is how I really made my name, is by predicting market behavior.
Yes.
So when you watch my videos, I give you all the analytics, and then I let you know whether or not this is an empty calorie analytic or not. Like we just discussed, What's more important isn't the fact that we had 11 out of 12 weeks. What's more important is that the last 4 weeks have been at a very high rate of
Yes.
increase.
Agreed.
So a lot of times I'll explain this analytic and I'll tell you why this is important or why this is an empty calorie and like, look, use it as you will, but this doesn't mean a damn thing. But I wrap everything together, tell you where we're going, tell you the best way to approach this market, whether you're a buyer, whether you're a seller. So please definitely check out my YouTube channel. It's simply Lebo Group, the Lebo Group on YouTube. And I'd love for you guys to tune in, watch, and subscribe and tell some friends.
There you go. Yeah. You got to check him out. If you're looking to put money in Vegas, Brian is the guy. Go to the Lebo Group. Thanks, buddy. It's been fun.
All right. Good seeing you. Thank you again for watching.